Today, we're going to dive into one of the most incredible moments in early Islamic history. A moment where profound human fear was completely transformed into a divine call to action.
It all starts with this one powerful plea, written here in Bengali, "Cover me with the garment." Now, this wasn't just some line in a story. This was a raw, terrified cry from the Prophet Muhammad himself after an absolutely startling experience. It grounds us immediately in a moment of real vulnerability.
So you gotta ask, right? What could possibly cause a reaction that intense? To really get it, we have to rewind the clock and see what happened just moments before he said this.
All right, so our story actually picks up after the very first revelation in the Cave of Hira. But what came next wasn't another message right away. Instead, there was this period of silence, a silence that was about to be broken in the most dramatic way imaginable.
So picture this. After this pause in Revelations, the prophet is simply walking along when all of a sudden he hears a sound coming from the sky. He looks up and it's him, the exact same angelic being that he'd first seen in the cave of Hira.
And this is where it gets absolutely mind-blowing. The sheer scale of this vision is just, wow. Imagine seeing a being sitting on a throne so immense that it fills the entire space between the sky and the ground. This wasn't just a surprising sight. It was overwhelming, it was terrifying, and it sent the prophet rushing home, his heart pounding, leading him to cry out, "Cover me!" But here's the twist. It was in that very moment of fear, while he was wrapped up in his garment seeking comfort, that a new divine message came down. And it wasn't a message to scold him, but one of empowerment, of purpose.
And this was it. The opening verses of Surah Al-Muddaththir were revealed. The message starts by addressing him directly, right there in his state of fear. "O you who are wrapped." And then, right away, it gives him 5 commands that would literally define his entire mission.
And you have to understand, this was a total game changer. That quiet period, it was officially over. From this moment on, the divine revelation started to flow consistently, and they wouldn't stop, shaping the course of history as we know it.
Okay, so we've got the story down. But what's the deal with these 5 commands? What do they really mean? Let's break down the incredible significance packed into each one.
That very first verse is amazing. It acknowledges his human state, the one wrapped up. It sees him in his moment of rest and fear. But then, the very next command is a complete 180, arise and warn. It's this powerful, direct call to move from that private, personal space into a public role of huge responsibility.
You could say arise and warn is the mission statement in a nutshell. It's the core duty. Stand up and deliver a message to a society that was deeply rooted in its own traditions, calling people back to the worship of one God.
Next up, glorify your Lord. This tells us what the central message is. It's all about Tawheed, the absolute oneness and greatness of God. I mean, think about it. In a society like Mecca, which was built around worshiping countless idols, this was a completely radical idea.
Now, keep your clothing pure is fascinating because it's working on 2 different levels. On the surface, sure, it's about physical cleanliness, which is important. But the deeper meaning is about inner purity, having a pure heart, a pure character, and doing pure deeds.
And finally, stay away from impurity. This command makes it all very real. It's a clear-cut instruction to leave behind the main spiritual impurity of that time, polytheism, worshiping idols. It was also a call to reject the injustices that came with that system.
So when you put all of that together, what do you have? You have the complete framework for a mission that would change the world, delivered in a moment of intense personal crisis.
So let's just recap the big takeaways here. We saw a moment of real human fear get completely turned on its head and transformed into a powerful call to action. We witnessed the prophet being guided from a private state into his public mission. And those 5 verses, they were the blueprint for his entire life's work.
And that leaves us with a final thought, something to really reflect on. This whole event seems to show a pattern, turning moments of deep vulnerability, not into weaknesses, but into launch pads for something great. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How does a moment of profound personal fear become the very catalyst for a global mission?